Welcome to the Practice Leader Podcast, brought to you by Ascent, a show for medical practice administrators who feel stuck in the daily chaos and want to lead with intention. I'm Zed Williamson, founder and CEO of Physician Growth Accelerator.
And I'm Paul Richards, president of Ascent and director of otolaryngology at the University of Utah School of Medicine. Every week, we explore what high-performing leaders are doing in real time, so you can stop reacting and start leading with purpose, strategy, and results.
As the practice administrator, you're the boss. People will do what you say if you ask them. But is that really what is important for you to bring the practice to the next level? That's why we're speaking with our guest, Meredith Hirsh, CEO of the Hirsh Center, host of Working Healthcare Podcast. She also teaches medical business management at Florida Atlantic University. Meredith, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, practice administrator, they're the boss. They get to tell people what to do. That's all that matters, right?
No, it is not all that matters. There's definitely a difference between power and authority. And I think people have to realize that just because you're given the authority doesn't mean that you have the power.
So, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a practice administrator, busy. It's always seems like too many things are happening and they feel like they have to get the team to do something. Is that not the only thing that can come from just having authority?
Oh, authority is what you're given when you're elected president. We can definitely say that some have been better leaders than others. We can say that rulers of different countries are better in the role of power versus authority. The goal is to have the authority and the power, but the power is when you can get the collective group to work together toward a common good goal. It's for the commonality and the unity of goodness. That's the difference between a leader who has the power to be able to create something better and to lead toward a good, positive goal.
What does that look like if we were to just kind of play out the narrative? So there's the narrative of the overwhelmed practice administrator who feels like they have to have their hand on everything and they're kind of driving all of the initiative personally. What does it look like for someone who has developed those leadership qualities and actually is coming from a place of power, not just authority?
Well, I'm glad you said this, and we're going to talk about it in the keynote. And it's my favorite topic to talk about. I love the topic of leadership, and it's really hot right now in the healthcare world because we do have difficulty finding people, and I certainly have difficulty finding people who can step up into the role. Are you born that way, or are there skills that you can cultivate? There are definitely skills that you can cultivate. Now, it's important to be able to resolve conflict, right? We play whack-a-mole every single day. We have things coming at us all of the time. And rules and regulations are always changing on the state level and at the national level. And we have to be on top of it. But we also have to know that we need to collaborate because collaborating as a leader is so important and trusting and giving people autonomy to make decisions. I always say the first time you have a blip, let's call it a learning opportunity. But if you continue to have the same blip, now it's a mistake. And so a leader needs to be able to own it and say, okay, I screwed up. Like that wasn't the best decision. But it also takes a practice administrator or whoever is at the top to be able to give over the autonomy to be able to say, you know what, make those decisions. Screw up, make it a learning opportunity. Just don't do it again. So I think there are so many aspects of being a leader. And I think a lot of people have different aspects of leadership. There are people who aren't given authority, but they definitely hold the power. And I think we can think of multiple people within our organizations who have the power, even though they are not given the authority.
Absolutely. I'm sure listeners are probably thinking of people, they're coming to mind pretty easily, but let's say that's not in the nature of a practice administrator, and they know that there would be more value in them coming from a place of power and actually leading the team. How does someone get started thinking about what do I do differently today?
I think you have to think, who's your team? Who are you going to surround yourself around? And it's really important to have the confidence to say, you know what? I am going to surround myself around people who have traits and skills that I don't possess. I'm not great at everything, and it's important to realize that. And then I have to fill my core team with people who have that skill set that I don't have. And it takes a lot of confidence. And you know what? I also think it's okay to step down and to say, okay, so maybe I don't have the leadership ability, or maybe I need to go back and learn the leadership skills. Going to the Ascent conference is a great opportunity to get together with other people at different levels and to say, hey, what skills does that person have that are leadership related that I don't have, and befriend those people. Networking is so vital.
Yeah, you were doing the keynote, cultivating transformative leadership to inspire healthcare excellence at the upcoming Ascent annual conference, and there, I'm actually glad you brought that up right now, because if someone is listening to this, thinking about their role as a practice administrator and asking themselves, how often am I spending my time managing, compared to leading? Talking to people at Ascent is going to help you uncover so many things, because there are so many people that are dealing with the same issues and problems you're dealing with, and they might be on a different timeline. They might be ahead of where you are now. They might be behind. And there's so much value in learning from what other people are experiencing, because they're all dealing with the same challenges.
We are. Again, it's always whack a mole. Everything is coming at us. When we walk in the door, we have a beautiful, neat little plan of what we're going to tackle for the day, and it never happens. It's important to be able to organize and to figure out, okay, what is I like to call it my green, my yellow, my red. My red is what I have to do. There's nobody else who can do it but me. And if people really thought about it, you're not going to have more than 3 reds in a day. And if you do, you really need to reassess. But you have to get it done. Yellows are like, yeah, I'd like to do it. And it's on my list and it keeps going down and down and down because I'm always putting out fires. But that's always about growth and the ability to strategize. And that's what's going to keep independent medicine existing. And that's what's going to keep healthcare facilities continuing to work is you have to do these yellows. And then you also have the greens, and the greens are like, it's nice to do, but it's not going to move us forward, and somebody else can do it. So it's really important to, again, collaborate and be able to delegate responsibility. And you may find people at Ascent and at any other conference that you may attend, or online, or I love LinkedIn. I've been using it a lot lately. And be able and listening to podcasts, right, like this one, and being able to get some pearls of wisdom and to figure out, how can I do better? I feel like when you stop learning, you might as well be dead. I don't know if that's a nice way of saying. There's always a way to learn. There's always an opportunity to learn. I love learning. I'm like a huge autobiography fan because I always want to learn about people and then learn something from that person.
Absolutely. The idea of the red items, I really like that approach. And I almost think, how often do we lie to ourselves that we are really the only ones to do it? When you look at a red item, are you saying really that no one else in the organization can do that item? And I think if we challenge ourselves, we could probably shrink that red list down. Am I off base with that guess?
God, you're 100% correct. I was the only person who ran payroll for 17 and a half years. The only person who pressed the button. And I hired a director of HR. We got to the point in size, we have about 60 employees, where I was like, I cannot do this. And I do not want an HR manager, and I do not want an HR coordinator. Like, I need a director at a high level who can see everybody's salary, what everybody's bonus structure is, not have an
Mhm.
and be able to enter the information. So she came in April of this year and she was like, I've done this for other companies, Meredith. Let me take it over. And what she did was she entered the all of the information for me. And then I started reviewing it. Now, prior to that, I had hired an executive director of operations and finance because I can't be the only one who is the CEO and the CFO. We've gotten to that size where I can't wear all of these hats or we're not getting to where we need to go. And so she came on in January. And
Mhm.
so it made sense in this progression that, oh my God, I am not the only one who needs to press this button at this time. And then we moved over into an HRIS system. So instead of my accountant, if God forbid I get hit by a car and I'm in the hospital and he has to press the button and figure out payroll, which I don't know if he would be capable of doing. He had never done that. I mean, I was in the Sahara Desert trying to figure out how to run payroll. Now I have two people on my leadership team who can run payroll.
Mhm.
So, yes, that's not my red anymore. It's not what I have to do. And so, if you find yourself with too many reds where you think you're the only person who can do it, you need to figure out how to get a better team together so that you can delegate.
Yeah. I like that a lot. It's an empowering feeling to like offload, to create structure that makes your life easier, the company better, and my question though, and kind of the thought I've been having lately is, uh, at what point does your team become too big, or do you disseminate that power and now you've created like, oh, we'll have to review this in a committee, or you have like a bureaucracy that you've created unintentionally, like you kind of miss that sweet spot, and now you've got like paralysis where it's really hard to like be nimble, make decisions, and kind of make things move smoothly because you have to discuss it with like a lot of people. And I've noticed that in my career in academic medicine, where it's like you've disseminated, you've kind of become horizontal. And I'm not saying anything against that model, but I think there's a sweet spot where it can go too far. And now you're just kind of like, oh, you kind of like, I've lost my power. I've lost my authority. I've delegated it too far. I don't know if that's ever something you've ever experienced or anyone even kind of can relate to.
My God, 100%. So going back, we talk about the fact that you do a little screw up and let it be a learning opportunity as to be a mistake. And I went back to grad school for the third time. That's a long story in 2014. And I thought that my practice was in a place where I could delegate these responsibilities. But I don't think I did the due diligence needed. I drive fast and I make fast decisions. Like that's who I am. And it's benefited me in a lot of ways. And I need to find somebody who will slow me down a little bit. So there's my husband. We're like this, yin yang for that. He only drives fast if I yell at him as a passenger. So other than that, I'm the one who makes those decisions quickly. And so I thought we had our practice set up in a great way. And yeah, it wasn't so great. And when I finished grad school, I was sitting aside and I was working, I'd say about 25 hours a week remotely, and I was only going into the office once a week, and I didn't have the checks and balances in place to oversee and to make sure that we were moving in the direction that we needed to move into. So when I did it this time around, which was essentially 10 years later, right? I came back into the practice full time again in 2016 once I graduated and moved pieces around. And in 2025, yeah, January was when I brought in our executive director. Prior to that, though, when I came back in 2016, I said, I need to have a leadership team. I need to have other people who can make decisions and then empower them and cultivate them and continue to give them little steps and parameters in order to make decisions. So I didn't have to have this huge collective group in order to make decisions. I didn't have to micromanage everybody. I could say, you know what? This is within your authority. And I'm using that word specifically because, again, power is something you earn, authority is something you're given. So you have the authority to make that decision and you have the authority. So we do schedule leadership meetings once a month. And really, it's just a breakdown of this is what we've done and this is where we're going. And these are decisions that the leadership team would like your help in making. But certain decisions only I can make. And if I feel that I need to speak to the physicians, I will. But again, my practice is very different than academia. We only have one owner. So in academia, yeah, you get really bogged down with so many different hats at the table and decisions aren't being made. And it's funny you say that because my executive director came from higher ed and she left higher ed because of that reason. And it's much slower than it is in an independent practice where it's like you got to make the decision and move and move and move. And so you need to have checks and balances. You need to, you look at having consultants, just somebody who can put together reporting for you so you can review it if you're at a higher level. Why do you have to be in the nitty gritty of it every day or every week or every month to make that decision? Whatever reports are being run or you are running or a third party is running, right, for objectivity, go ahead and review that, but schedule, don't be in meeting overload, but schedule meetings to be able to make those high decisions if you need to make those high decisions. But otherwise, I think what we get stuck in healthcare is micromanagement. We're worried that we are the only ones who can make the decisions, or we have to make it as a collective group. And if somebody can't make the decision on his or her own, even though they're given the authority to do so, hopefully they have the trust and the confidence to be able to say, you know what, I need to ask somebody. I mean, I'm available on my cell phone all of the time. If I'm not in the office, text me. I tell everybody that this is how I manage myself. If you can wait 2 business days to get an answer, email me. If you need an answer immediately, text me.
I'm curious. So if I wanted to, I'm in the New Orleans area. If I wanted to drive to Park City, Utah, because I know that that's my destination, I can now design my path and I can drive pretty fast, right? Because there's some things known. Do we think we get bogged down because we forget that we're heading somewhere or that we don't have the vision in where we're actually heading? And so now it's, instead of, I know I'm going to Park City, Utah, I'm just wondering where I am all the time. And that's what creates some of that swirling around information.
I love that you said that. I actually wrote a post about that this morning on LinkedIn. And I said that because we are not working collectively as a healthcare group. I'm very involved in advocacy. And my favorite question that I ask at the end of every podcast episode is, if you could create one change within our American healthcare system, what would it be? And you have to look at the umbrella. You have to look at the big picture. I'm really good at looking at the big picture. I don't like nitty gritty. And if you talk to me, I just want to hear what the big picture is. If I have questions, I will ask you. But yes, I think many of us are worried about playing whack-a-mole and not looking at the objective of where do we need to go, right? We need to fix the physician fee schedule. Why are we talking? The AMA literally is talking about tampons in women's bathrooms. Why is the American Medical Association focused on tampons in women's bathrooms? We need to fix the physician fee schedule, okay? So it's looking at the larger goal and stop getting bogged down with all of the nuances and the little bitty annoyances. Like, keep going, get to Park City. Don't stop in Dallas.
Yeah, be aware when we're getting sidetracked, right? How often do we get into these swirling conversations that don't take us to the path that we're actually trying to get to?
Yes, and it would be great to even write that down. So I keep I'm doing this interview in my medical practice right now, and I actually have a board in my office, and it's compartmentalized into quarters: Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And we write down every director on my team, there are 4, writes down their big goal for the quarter. Now, it might be broken up into 4 parts to get to their ultimate annual goal. And every leadership team member, we review our annual goal. And every director has 3 annual goals. And it's all to get to the larger goal. It could be to increase revenue. All right. It is all toward the larger goal. And so I have 3 goals that I want to achieve. Then my executive director has those 3 goals that support the larger goal. She and I should really have the same goals. Then our directors who report to her, which are 3, they have goals that will get to her 3 goals. And then our managers or our team have goals. So if everybody is getting to the same goal. And at every monthly meeting, we review how close are we toward those goals? Is anyone getting hung up? Where are we at? Now, we don't have numbers regarding revenue until I run a P&L, and I want my accountant to review it, and I want to do it quarterly, and that's what we'll do. And then we ask, where were the hangups? Did we do well? Did we not do well? Why did we do well? Why are we not getting to that goal? And then on my board, I have our quarterly goals to get to the one big goal. And somebody will come in and say, potentially one of the directors, and say, oh my gosh, I'm working on XYZ. I said, why are we working on that now? Is it going to help us get to this one goal or hinder us from getting to this one goal? And so sometimes we have to move over what we're in for Q1 to Q2, Q3, Q4, or sometimes I'll have somebody call me because I go to meetings and I come back and I have like 30 ideas and my team is like courses. So they'll say to me, or I'll rather say to them, let's do it in Q1 of next year. Like, let's put that in Q1 of next year because the board's full. Unless we move something out, we can't focus on that right now.
Absolutely. Meredith, you're doing 2 things at the upcoming Ascent conference in Kansas City. So I mentioned the keynote, Cultivating Transformative Leadership to Inspire Healthcare Excellence. And you're also doing a boot camp, Building Your Own Leadership Training Program. I really appreciate you taking the time today, spending with us and our audience. If they want to connect with you, they can go to meredithhirsh.com, and Hirsh is spelled Hirsh. But we'll also put that in the show notes for easy clicking, and we'll also put your LinkedIn profile. But I really appreciate you taking the time today and spending it with us.
This is great. I love talking about leadership. I think we could do it forever, but since you said 20 minutes, I was like, man. But no, great. I really like being a part of Ascent. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we'll see you in Kansas City. Thanks for listening to the Practice Leader Podcast. If you're feeling the weight of challenges in your practice, know this: the problems you're struggling with today don't have to remain problems. There is a path forward, and you're not walking it alone.
Each week, we'll be here with insights, ideas, and real-world conversations to help you move forward from chaos to clarity.
See you next week.